In a dramatic conclusion to a long-standing family dispute, a judge has ruled that Josh and Pumpkin Shannon, members of the infamous reality television family, must pay Mama June Shannon a staggering $12 million after being found liable for fraud. The ruling, delivered in a packed courtroom last week, has sent shockwaves through fans of the Here Comes Honey Boo Boo franchise and ignited a fierce debate about family loyalty, financial responsibility, and the darker side of celebrity culture. The court's decision follows months of legal wrangling, during which prosecutors and attorneys for Mama June argued that Josh and Pumpkin had engaged in deliberate acts of financial deception that caused significant economic harm to her. According to court documents, the fraud involved a combination of misrepresented investments, unauthorized access to funds, and questionable business dealings that ultimately left Mama June at a substantial financial disadvantage. This is a landmark ruling, not only for the parties involved, but for celebrity families and public figures across the country, said legal analyst Marsha Levinson, who has followed the case closely. The court's decision sends a clear message that family ties do not shield individuals from accountability in matters of fraud. To understand the full significance of the ruling, one must first consider the family at the center of this controversy. Mama June, born June Shannon, rose to national prominence through the TLC reality series Here Comes Honey Boo Boo, which documented the lives of her children, including Alana, Honey Boo Boo Thompson, and the family's unconventional lifestyle in rural Georgia. Over the years, Mama June has faced numerous personal and legal challenges, from publicized struggles with addiction to high-profile family disputes. Josh Shannon, her son, has also been a recurring figure in media coverage, known for his volatile public persona and involvement in the family's business affairs. Pumpkin, whose real name is Lauryn Shannon, has similarly remained in the public eye, balancing her reality TV appearances with personal ventures. Both have been closely associated with the family brand, which includes merchandising, appearances, and sponsorships. According to sources familiar with the case, the alleged fraud centered on funds that Mama June had entrusted to Josh and Pumpkin, who promised to manage her finances and investments responsibly. Instead, the court found they allegedly engaged in a series of transactions that were either unauthorized or misleading, ultimately resulting in the massive $12 million liability. The legal conflict began quietly, with informal disputes over money and financial management. However, tensions escalated after Mama June's legal team uncovered evidence suggesting deliberate financial misconduct. Formal charges of fraud were filed earlier this year, prompting a series of hearings and depositions that drew intense media scrutiny. Court records detail how Josh and Pumpkin allegedly used Mama June's money for personal expenses, undisclosed investments, and other transactions that were not in her best interest. Witnesses testified to a pattern of misrepresentation and concealment, painting a picture of a family conflict that extended far beyond typical domestic disagreements. The trial itself was a spectacle, with attorneys presenting reams of financial documents, email correspondences, and testimony from financial experts. Observers noted the stark contrast between the family's public persona, frequently portrayed as chaotic but loving, and the meticulous evidence presented in court, which suggested a calculated effort to misappropriate funds. Judge Ellen Marsh, presiding over the case, emphasized in her ruling that the evidence clearly demonstrated fraudulent intent. In a 45-page opinion, she wrote, "The defendants, Josh and Lauryn Shannon, engaged in actions that constituted deliberate misrepresentation and misuse of funds entrusted to them by June Shannon. The cumulative effect of these actions resulted in significant financial harm, which the court finds justifies a compensatory award in the amount of $12 million. The judge also rejected arguments from Josh and Pumpkin's legal team that they had acted in good faith or misunderstood their responsibilities. According to the ruling, the evidence showed a conscious pattern of deception that violated both state fraud statutes and common principles of fiduciary duty. News of the ruling quickly went viral, with social media users expressing shock, support for Mama June, and criticism of Josh and Pumpkin. Hashtags such as hashtag Mama June Justice and hashtag Shannon Fraud trended within hours, reflecting widespread interest in the case. Fans and commentators have pointed to the ruling as an example of accountability in celebrity families, while others have framed it as a cautionary tale about the risks of mixing family and finances. Memes, opinion pieces, and video commentaries flooded platforms like TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram, with many users praising Mama June for pursuing justice despite personal and public challenges. The air in the Fulton County Superior Court was thick enough to choke on, a mixture of stale coffee, floor wax, and the palpable static of a family empire crumbling in real time. When Judge Clementine Holloway returned from her chambers, the silence that fell over the room wasn't respectful, it was terrified. On one side of the aisle sat June Shannon, known to the world simply as Mama. She wore an austere navy pantsuit, a sharp departure from the glitz of her reality TV confessional looks. Her hands were clasped so tightly on the mahogany table that her knuckles were white. On the other side sat the defendants, her daughter Lauryn Pumpkin Efird and son-in-law Josh Efird. They looked less like reality stars and more like two people watching a tsunami approach from a beach chair. In the matter of Shannon versus Efird, Judge Holloway began, her voice cutting through the silence like a serrated knife. The jury has reached a unanimous verdict. The clerk accepted the paper. The reading took 4 minutes, but it dismantled a decade of family branding in seconds. On 7 counts of wire fraud, breach of fiduciary duty, and conversion of assets, the jury found for the plaintiff. The total damages, $12 million. The gasp from the gallery, populated by lesser reality stars, legal bloggers, and a frantic camera crew from WeTV, was audible. Pumpkin slumped forward, burying her face in her hands. Josh stared blankly at the court seal on the wall, his jaw working silently. Mama June did not smile. She simply closed her eyes and let out a breath that sounded like a ghost leaving a room. This wasn't just a legal ruling. It was the season finale to end all season finales. To understand how a family that built a fortune on cheese balls and sketty ended up at war over an 8-figure sum, you have to look at the books. For years, the public narrative was clear. Mama June was the addict in recovery, the chaotic matriarch who had lost her way. Pumpkin and Josh were the saviors, the young couple who stepped up, took in younger sister Alana, Honey Boo Boo, and held the family together while June chased bad men and bad habits. But according to the 400 pages of forensic accounting evidence presented over the 3-week trial, that narrative was a smokescreen for one of the most brazen financial schemes in entertainment history. The allegations centered on the Comeback Fund, a series of LLCs established in 2021. Ostensibly, these accounts were created to manage June's earnings while she was in rehab and unable to manage her own finances. Pumpkin and Josh were named holding managers. The defendants treated Mrs. Shannon's lifetime earnings not as a trust, but as a personal piggy bank. Lead attorney for the plaintiff, Marcus Thorne, told the jury in his opening statement. While June was fighting for her sobriety, her daughter and son-in-law were fighting for a higher credit limit. The evidence was damning. Bank records displayed on the courtroom projectors showed a dizzying array of transfers. Between 2022 and 2024, over $8 million of June's appearance fees, residuals from Here Comes Honey Boo Boo, and brand deal payouts were siphoned into a shell company called P&J Distinctives. From there, the money vanished into a lifestyle that Instagram followers watched in real time, assuming it was funded by Pumpkin's own influencer checks. Custom lifted trucks, a sprawling property renovation, high-stakes crypto investments that went nowhere, and perhaps most damaging of all, a staggering $450,000 spent on consulting fees paid to Josh Efird himself. The turning point of the trial, the moment the defense effectively collapsed, came on day 12. The defense, led by the beleaguered attorney Sarah Jenkins, argued that the spending was authorized. Their strategy was the reimbursement theory. They claimed that June, in moments of lucidity during her addiction battles, had verbally authorized Josh and Pumpkin to use whatever funds necessary to care for Alana and maintain the family's lifestyle, which was the source of their collective income. They were keeping the ship afloat, Jenkins argued. You don't court-martial the captain for using the cargo to patch the hull. But the plaintiff had a surprise witness. Enter startling testimony from the family's former business manager, a man named Gary Big G Henson. Henson, who had been fired by Pumpkin in 2023, took the stand under subpoena. Did you ever discuss the nature of these transfers with Mr. and Mrs. Efird? Thorne asked. I did, Henson replied, adjusting his glasses. On October 14th, 2023, I told Josh that moving the syndication money into their personal checking was illegal. It was tax fraud, plain and simple. And what was Mr. Efird's response? Henson paused, looking directly at Josh. He told me, the old lady is cooked. She's never coming back from this bender. By the time she wakes up, we'll own it all anyway. Just book it as expenses. The courtroom erupted. Judge Holloway had to bang her gavel 3 times to restore order. The old lady is cooked comment became the headline across TMZ, Page 6, and People magazine within minutes. But the real nail in the coffin was a recorded Zoom call. Submitted into evidence as Exhibit 44B, the audio was played for a hushed courtroom. It was a conversation between Pumpkin and a merchandising agent regarding June's likeness rights. Pumpkin, on tape listen, cut the check to Efird Enterprises. Do not send it to Mama's address. She doesn't even know she has a merch line dropping. If she finds out, she'll just blow it. We're doing her a favor. Just sign it over. The jury looked from the speaker to the defense table. Pumpkin's face was a mask of red-blotched fury. She leaned over to whisper frantically to her lawyer, but the damage was done. They hadn't just stolen the money, they had stolen June's agency, gaslighting her into believing she was broke while they spent her fortune. If the audio tape was the nail, June's testimony was the hammer. Taking the stand on the final day of testimony, June looked clearer and sharper than she had in a decade. The defense tried to paint her as an unreliable narrator, citing her history of substance abuse. They tried to make the jury doubt her memory. Mrs. Shannon, the defense attorney probed, during 2022, were you not under the influence of narcotics for the majority of the fiscal year? I was, June admitted, her voice steady. I was sick. I was at the lowest point of my life. I was a terrible mother and a terrible money manager. She turned to look at the jury. But being an addict doesn't mean I deserve to be robbed by my own blood. I went to them for help. I signed those papers because I thought they were saving me. I didn't know I was signing my own death warrant. When I got clean, I asked to see the accounts. They told me there was nothing left. They told me I smoked it all. For 6 months, I believed them. I hated myself because I thought I burned through $10 million. She wiped a tear. Then I found the bank statements in Josh's truck. The emotional weight of her testimony, the betrayal of a mother realizing her children were capitalizing on her potential demise, was devastating. It dismantled the good daughter image Pumpkin had cultivated for years. The jury deliberated for only 6 hours. When the $12 million figure was read, it was broken down into specific categories. $8.4 million in compensatory damages, the actual money stolen. $3.6 million in punitive damages, punishment for the malicious nature of the fraud. Judge Holloway added a scathing postscript to the verdict. This court has seen many cases of elder abuse and familial theft, the judge said, peering over her spectacles. But rarely has it been executed with such calculated cynicism. Mr. and Mrs. Efird, you didn't just breach a contract. You breached the fundamental covenant of family. You used your mother's illness as a business opportunity. The judge ordered an immediate freeze on all of Josh and Pumpkin's assets. The sprawling Georgia home? Frozen. The accounts? Frozen. The future reality TV checks? Garnished. As the doors of the courthouse swung open, the humidity of the Georgia afternoon hit the family along with a wall of camera flashes. Josh and Pumpkin exited first, flanked by security. They refused to speak to the press. Pumpkin, usually vocal and combative with paparazzi, looked shell-shocked. She wore large sunglasses, shielding eyes that had likely been crying. Josh looked angry, shoving a microphone away as a reporter asked, Josh, how will you pay the $12 million? Minutes later, Mama June emerged. She stood on the steps of the courthouse, flanked by her legal team. She didn't look triumphant. She looked tired. Justice was served today, her lawyer, Marcus Thorne, stated. But there are no winners here. This is a tragedy for the Shannon family. June stepped up to the microphones. The clicking of shutters sounded like rain. I love my daughter, June said, her voice cracking. And I love my son-in-law. I love my grandbabies. People think this is about money. It ain't. It's about the truth. You can't build a life on lies. I had to do this to stop them. Maybe now, Maybe now they'll learn to stand on their own 2 feet instead of standing on my neck. When asked if she would reconcile with them, June paused. The bank accounts can be refilled, she said softly. Trust? That's overdrawn. I don't know if we can ever pay that back. The fallout was immediate. Within hours, WeTV announced they were evaluating the future of Mama June, Family Crisis. Production insiders suggest the network is scrambling. The dynamic of the show, the scrappy family sticking together, is dead. Social media, the courtroom of public opinion, was ruthless. Honey Boo Boo Stan, I always knew Josh gave off bad vibes. $12 million? That's not an accident, that's a heist. But the most pressing question remains. Where will the money come from? Legal experts predict Josh and Pumpkin will be forced to file for bankruptcy. The $12 million judgment is non-dischargeable in many cases if fraud is proven, meaning this debt could follow them for the rest of their lives. The custom cars will be auctioned. The house will likely be sold. For the Shannon Efird clan, the cameras are still rolling, but the script has flipped. They are no longer the lovable hillbilly rednecks who made good. They are the protagonists of a cautionary tale about greed, addiction, and the corrosive nature of fame. As night fell over Atlanta, a solitary figure was seen leaving the back entrance of the courthouse. It was Alana Honey Boo Boo Thompson. She had sat in the back row, silent, for the entire verdict. She walked to a waiting car, ignoring the shouts of reporters. She is the only one who didn't testify. She is the only one who didn't sue. And as the family tears itself apart over millions of dollars, she remains the one thing they all claim they were fighting for. The judgment is in. The debt is due. But the cost of this war is something $12 million can never to generate takeaways from this article. This means the info may not always match what's in the article. Reporting mistakes helps us improve the experience, generate key takeaways. Mama June's daughter Lauryn Pumpkin Efird pulls in a massive monthly income from her various jobs. In Touch can exclusively report. According to court documents obtained by In Touch, Pumpkin, 24, told a divorce judge she makes $20,000 per month. Her estranged husband Josh, 28, makes the same amount in income. The numbers were revealed in a child support worksheet submitted as part of the ex's divorce. The Ashley's Reality Roundup was the first to report on the filing. As In Touch previously reported, Pumpkin filed her petition on August 1st. She listed the date or marriage as June 17th, 2019, and the date of separation as July. Pumpkin said she had been living separate lives from Josh ever since the breakup. The reality star and her ex share 4 children. Ella, born in 2017, Bentley, born in 2021, and twin Silas and Stella, born in 2022. Mama June's daughter Pumpkin's massive 5-figure monthly income exposed in divorce from Josh. As In Touch first reported, the legal documents revealed that Pumpkin and Josh hashed out an agreement on the issues of custody, visitation, child support, and how to split their property and debt. Per their agreement, Pumpkin and Josh agreed to share joint legal and physical custody of their kids. Both parties agreed that neither would be paid any sort of support. The agreement stated, due to the joint custodial relationship between the parties, there shall be no award of child support. The parties shall equally divide the expenses of the minor children, including but not limited to uncovered medical expenses, extracurricular activities, and necessary school expenses. Pumpkin and Josh agreed that Josh would remove his name from the lease on the Georgia home they shared. Pumpkin will be responsible for all bills associated with the property. Pumpkin was awarded all vehicles in her name, and Josh got to keep all of his cars. Both agreed to keep their own bank accounts. The deal said they will continue to manage their children's savings accounts. The divorce came as a bit of a shock. In 2022, Pumpkin praised Josh on social media for his parenting skills. She said, all my life, I prayed God would send me someone I could have a family with and love forever, and he sent me you. Thank you for being the best father to all of our babies, including Alana. Pumpkin added, you've never failed to show up and show the kids what a real man is. I'll forever be thankful for you. Me and the kids love you so very much. Pumpkin recently debuted her new boyfriend. Mama June's daughter Pumpkin's massive 5-figure monthly income exposed in divorce from Josh. As In Touch previously reported, Mama June, 45, is involved in her legal battle with her late daughter Anna Cardwell's ex-husband, Michael Cardwell. The two are fighting over custody of Anna's 12-year-old daughter, Caitlin. Mama June was awarded temporary custody, but Michael demanded Caitlin live with him since he cares for his daughter 8-year-old Kylie, who he shared with Anna. Mama June accused Michael of being abusive to her daughter during their relationship. Michael's lawyer, Donald Lewis Roberts, said, "Michael denies these allegations. This is the first time that any of these allegations have been made against him. He and Anna had a great relationship when they were married and simply separated due to differences in opinions and personalities.